Everybody for joining today. It is February the 12th. It actually is fairly warm outside. I think it's supposed to be in the 70s next week, so it's going to be quite interesting. Going to have a lot of fun outdoor projects to start on myself personally on my personal time. So with that, it's my pleasure specifically to introduce Adam Guy. Today's topic is on the new Tennessee FAA flight check process. Bear in mind, this has been effectively almost 6 months to a year in the making, pulling in all the different individuals and making this become a reality. And over the last couple of weeks, if not technically a month, if not longer, effectively Adam's been leveraging a few other individuals that I want to go ahead and name specifically. Tanner Askren. He's one of our newer staff members. He's been working on a lot of the different things behind the scenes that you'll probably never see, but it makes the process a very streamlined process itself. And then Oliver Ruff specifically helping out with modifying our website to make it easier for the end user as well. And I think you'll love what you see today specifically. So with that, Adam, it is with you. And at the end of this presentation, we'll have a couple of just minor updates in terms of some upcoming events as well. So go ahead, Adam. Thank you.
Thank you, Christopher. Good morning, everybody. Good to see everybody. Good to present this morning and give you guys this exciting update that we'd like to showcase. This is kind of a sequel from the PAPI planning, design, and construction presentation that we offered last week. We talked a little bit about flight checks, FAA commissioning checks, and the process of that, and as it related to PAPIs. But now we're talking today, kind of revealing our new process related to all FAA commissioning flight checks. So without further ado, I'll kind of jump in and give you a little background to start off with. First, I do want to mention, as a friendly reminder, we do post all of our office hour recordings on the website, T.Aeronautics website. It is currently located under Aeronautics News, and you have a sub-tab named Office Hours. So you can go back, you can see all sorts of trainings that we have, trainings or updates that we have offered as a division as of recent. As I mentioned, I want to start off with a little bit of background for everybody to kind of give you some information about the requirements of flight checks, why they do it, things like that. So the FAA commissions approach lighting systems and navigational aids across the U.S. to ensure a standard level of safety for pilots. FAA releases an order. It's a document that's almost 500 pages long on flight inspections. It's got everything that you would want to know about how they do it, why they do it, when they do it, those types of things. Our primary focus here in Tennessee and with this process is really going to be revolving around flight inspections across the general aviation network related to PAPI projects, medium intensity runway lighting projects, high intensity runway lighting projects. So that's approach lighting, that's runway edge lighting and reels. We might have some approach lighting thrown in there too, but that is the gist of what we are getting flight checked across the state at public use general aviation airports. I want to throw some language in here for you guys about the requirements of this. If you really nail down into that 500-page document, you can find a sentence here on it. A commissioning flight inspection is required for all airport lighting systems, including approach lights, reels, runway lights, and radio control of lights that support a public use or military instrument approach procedure. So if there's an instrument approach procedure at the airfield on that runway end, and there's this type of navigational aid in place, it requires an FAA commissioning check. However, that is not to say that for VFR only airports, you don't need to do flight checks. Tennessee Aeronautics Division, or TDOT Aeronautics Division, we support and encourage flight inspections also on VFR only runways as well. You still have to design navigational aids to FAA standards, no matter what. So, you really want to get this flight inspection regardless, because it ensures that it is done to a certain level of FAA standard. So what do I mean by PAPIs, reels, and runway edge lighting? Which would be the majority of what we'd use this, what we'd be flight checking across the state. PAPIs, located here in this diagram. Reels, lights out the end of the runway here. Runway edge lighting, adjacent to the runway edge. Why are we doing an office hours today? So our official announcement is that we have entered into a 5-year master reimbursable agreement, otherwise known as RA, with the FAA for flight checks needed for navigational aids at public use general aviation airports. So airports will no longer have to contact the FAA to set up an individual RA agreement for their project. That was the standard process. That is now not the process. Flight check costs will now be paid by TDOT and will not be part of the project's grant. So that is specific to the FAA flight check costs. We are now covering that under our new 5-year master reimbursable agreement between TDOT and the FAA. Here's a little snippet of a development update that we are going to release hopefully by the end of this month. So let's talk a little bit more about the agreement. As I mentioned, it's an agreement. It's an intergovernmental agreement between TDOT and FAA, and we decided to go with a $150,000 state deposit for the initial deposit. We derived this from a 3-year airport capital improvement plan and project scope. So we looked at the next 3 years across the state of projects that would likely need flight check, equipment that had flight check requirements. And we had cost information based on hourly rates from the FAA, put it in a spreadsheet, tallied it up, and we came up with about $150,000 of a need. So we chose 3 years just because we know that is a little bit more definite than a 5-year ACIP. So we wanted to go with a number derived from a higher confidence interval. The agreement's 5 years, but it can be amended or reinstated over time. This is for FAA flight inspections only. On-site contractor costs excluded, but are AIP eligible for one successful flight check. So include the cost of the contractor that's needed for on-site adjustments during the flight inspection. Make sure you include that in your project. Cost, the best thing you can do likely is just have that incidental to your contract specifications. Make sure that that's included. Talk about that at the pre-bid meeting and then also at the pre-construction meeting. I do want to mention that we are going to mirror this in line with the AIP eligibility for flight inspections, which means you get one successful flight check reimbursed or paid for. We do not want to use this as a trial and error. So make sure you're designing these navigational aid projects correctly and in line with the FAA standards to make sure that we only pay for that flight check one time. And that's from the AIP handbook. We like that too. So just want to mention that. Typical eligible navigational aids that we would pay for the flight inspection for would be reels, PAPIs, approach, and runway lighting systems. I do want to give a little credit to Oklahoma. We did reach out to Oklahoma. We had kind of heard about this idea through the grapevine. Oklahoma has been doing this for a little bit. I think Texas was following suit, but there are many, many states that are currently looking to do something like this. The FAA is they're pretty low on help in the flight operations department right now. I believe they're down to one person that is doing reimbursable agreements for the entire United States. Her name's Katie Barrett. So that's recently one of her colleagues has retired. So that is also another justification for the need of this. So what's the agreement continued? In conjunction with the FAA, TDOT will determine the eligibility of the flight check for the equipment proposed. If the airport equipment is not eligible under the master agreement, then the airport may have the option to enter into a separate RA agreement with the FAA. So if it's something specialized like an ILS flight check or something pricier, you know, that's $30, $40, $50,000. That's something that we're not looking to include under this. We're looking for the $10,000 to $15,000 flight checks that you guys have been seeing on your other projects, on your AIP projects. We're looking to pay for those. We don't want to spend down. We want to make sure that this agreement is utilized and spread as far as we can spread it. So there may be opportunities to enter into the normal master or normal reimbursable agreement process with the FAA still for specialized flight checks. But we will do what we can to support you guys at the general aviation airports. However, due to staffing shortages in the department, they're moving away from individual RAs for flight checks. So again, we'll do what we can to help you guys if there is a roadblock, but just want to give you guys the main eligibility here. All right, so why should you use this? Pretty simple. It's going to cut months and months of wait time to get the flight check. I actually took the background language here from another DOT's website, but if you really read into that, it's not a very efficient process, and it just hasn't been an efficient process. So it's been time to do something like this, in our opinion. The process is just emailing a certain person with a certain subject line, with certain body language. I'm sorry, body language in the body, and on a Tuesday kind of thing. We're trying to get away from that, and we do believe we're going to solve, a big efficiency issue here. The new agreement will significantly reduce the typical 3 to 6 month delay in setting up individual RAs and getting navigational aids, FAA flight checked and commissioned. The process will now cut to a 2 to 3 week time frame, but that does depend on the FAA flight scheduling department. And I'll talk a little bit more about the steps, the process, just so you can see how this will work, and I'll show you an example. As a result, newly installed equipment can be inspected and approved for official use much sooner. This minimizes downtime and ensuring safer, faster activation at airports across the state. Key point, something you guys are going to care about here. The checkbook will be monitored by TDOT and the FAA and will no longer be the responsibility or cost of the airport sponsor. You don't have to worry about putting this cost in your projects anymore, estimating it. We're going to have this agreement and we're going to manage that for you guys. All right, let's get into some of the actual steps here. Say you're an airport / consultant. You guys need a flight check. You've just installed PAPIs. You've just installed MERLs. You've just installed reels. Or you could just install one component. But you need something. Say it's a component that needs a flight check. First thing you're going to do, you're going to navigate to the TDOT Aeronautics Division website and fill out a quick Microsoft Forms request. Shout out to Tanner Askren. for creating this and using Microsoft Power Automate, all sorts of high-tech software to make this happen, to make it easy for you, to make it easy for us. You can see a little snippet of the Microsoft Forms on the right. It asks you a series of questions. Basically, it forces you to give us the information that we need to give to the FAA. Why do you need it? Why do you need to go through us now? Well, one, the FAA is forcing that since the agreement is between TDOT and FAA. But two, we still need to review and vet it before we send it to the FAA to put on their checkbook to have it scheduled. We need to make sure that it is a viable Nav-Aid request. Most of the time it will be. You guys are going to be at that time of your project and you're going to request this. That's what we want. But we will have a level of review, but it'll be pretty straightforward typically. So once you find that link, it'll take you to this Microsoft Forms. You'll fill that out and you'll submit it. I'll show you an example of that at the end. Once the info is received, like I said, we're going to review it, and then we'll send it off to the FAA if it's valid. TDOT Aeronautics Division will then provide the airport sponsor and consultant with the designated FAA flight scheduler. So say everything's good, they put it on their books. They're going to give us the FAA flight scheduler contact and some information that the sponsor and consultant, so the airport and consultant will then have that information they need, and they will assume the communication responsibility until a satisfactory flight check. So we'll send you that information. You'll run with it. Go get the flight check. After the flight check is completed, the airport sponsor will receive an FAA report signifying the equipment was satisfactory or unsatisfactory. We are shooting for satisfactory every time for Nav-Aid category evaluated. Side note, if you're doing PAPI flight checks, and again, if you went to my training last week, you'll know this, but you're also going to be required to submit VGSI visual glide slope indicator data form. That used to be a Microsoft Word document or an Excel document, but now it's online, and it takes you through the AIS portal. AIS portal is not ADIP. It's not Airport Data and Information Portal. This is AIS. It's different. So it is their 7914 form. So you'll have to do that if there is a PAPI component, safety critical data. I won't read too much of this to you. I already mentioned it. We're looking to pay for one flight check. So make sure that you are doing the design. This is more so a concern with PAPIs. We did training last week, as I mentioned. Make sure you're evaluating the right surfaces that correspond with your PAPI equipment. Those surfaces are called the OCS, obstacle clearance surface, and the LSCS surface. That is the light signal clearance surface relative to the PAPI lens. So make sure you're evaluating those in your design process, your pre-design, your planning and your design process, because you should know if your PAPI is going to pass or not when you're getting a flight check. Just want to throw that note in there as well. Some additional resources for you guys. Got that near 500-page flight inspection manual here at the top left. That is FAA Order 8200 1D, Change 2 currently. Great document. Found a lot of this information in there. You can read more about the FAA flight program operations. They talk about their mission. They talk about the different sections that they support and business that they do. You can read some more there. We also have the PAPI planning, design, and construction training on our website now. All right, so we're gonna show you guys an example on the screen today of how to submit a flight check. So it is located under Contact Us, Help Tickets, and shout out to Oliver Ruff for assisting with the website, working through T.IT to make this happen in time for today's meeting. Do you want to give some credit there as well? So let's see if we can go. Bear with me 1 second. All right, great. So you guys should see my screen now where I'm showing the TDOT Aeronautics Division website homepage. Currently, the way our architecture is set on the website, you'll go to the bottom, contact us. There's a drop-down arrow, and you have a section, we're calling it help tickets. We do have plans to do some more ideas in the future for help tickets. You'll go to Tennessee FAA flight check. Again, this is if you're ready for a flight check, we need to go and get one on the books. First step. You're going to select your airport. Let's see who the lucky winner today will be. Let's do Morristown, MOR. Fun fact, currently what this will do, it'll look at the airport, and we have designed it to copy the state project manager as well, depending on the airport. It looks at a sheet that we have internally. So if you're wondering if your project manager is going to be aware of this, they should, number one, but number two, they're going to get a courtesy copy based on this field. Which nav aids need an FAA conditioning flight check? We're doing a hypothetical situation here. So let's do runway. I am not sure what Morristown's runway ends are. So we are just going to do. Actually, I want to make this correct. Does anybody know what Morristown's runway ends are? I have to look. If not, we'll go with 119. So runway 1 and 19. Reels. We'll also put runway 19.
0523 is what Zach Colescott says. I don't know if it's true or not, but he replied.
Zach Colescott, yeah, that's probably right. Thank you, Zach. 523. Say runway 05, copy. And then we'll say needed to get permission. So put 05. There we go. Next question is the nav aid currently constructed, installed, and ready for immediate use. This is important. We want you guys to request this at the right. We want you guys to request this at the right time. We don't want you to request this 6 months in advance anymore. This new process mitigates that. Say yes. Airport has evaluated PAPI surfaces. This is important because we want to pay for one flight check. If you haven't evaluated these surfaces and you're asking for a PAPI, might be a good chance that it won't pass. And my training PowerPoint will kind of explain why that may be. Right? So we are going to say yes. All right, this is a requirement by the FAA. Who's the on-site technician? So we'll say Joe. We'll just say Morrison. A Morris at gmail.com and 615. That's the Middle Tennessee area code, so forgive me. 9. Fun fact, technician also must have a handheld radio for the FAA communication during the flight check. Side note, something to mention to them when you're getting them out there. Designated airport consultant contact, name and email. Say up here, this is who's going to be communicating with the FAA flight scheduler. So once we review it, we send it to the FAA, they put it on the checkbook. They're going to give us the FAA flight schedule contact. We're going to send that off to you. This is who we're going to send it to. So you can also put multiple names here. It just kind of tells us who to contact. Name of person that's filling out this form. So that could be someone else. So we'll say email a person filling out this Tennessee flight check request. Additional commentary that you want us to know. So is there special characteristics with the PAPIs? Are they baffled? Did you have to rotate them? Is there anything you want the FAA to know in particular? But PAPIs, baffled, 6 degrees relative to pilots, something like that. You don't have to put anything there, but more information is typically better. Also, you're going to just kind of certify to us that this information is complete and accurate. Guys, this is going to be on the World Wide Web. We want to just try to get in front of internet trolls. I'm going to be honest with you. Just make sure that it's complete and accurate. We don't want anyone in the world submitting this. We actually just want you guys to submit this so we can help you out at your airport. All right. And then it's going to give you a prompt, and it's just going to let you know that we're going to get to this within 5 business days. If you don't hear back, contact your state project manager. We'll get an email notification, and then it'll assign it into an internal system that we use called Microsoft Planner, and it'll put it into a flight check bucket. That way it's kind of like a help desk ticket. That way we see it. So that is really the main process here. And see if I can go back to our presentation. That's the main process, guys. And I did include a PDF. Hopefully that opens up for you. Let me know if it doesn't, of those questions, just so you can see them. And I just want to thank you guys for your time this morning. And I do ask if there's anything else I can elaborate on, I'd be happy to. So thanks.
So Adam, we got a question from Chuck. How would/will a failed flight check be handled?
It's a good question. Flight check costs have to be reimbursed under a reimbursable agreement between the FAA and the airport. So in that situation, if it was deemed, something we probably will talk internally about more, but if it is deemed that, the airport, consultant, let's say, didn't evaluate the PAPI surfaces and this could have been prevented, it might be something that, the airport would be required to go into their own individual RA agreement to reimburse those costs. Um, so again, just do your due diligence, design the project correctly. Easier said than done. Um, but if it's something that, really could have been prevented, those are typically those costs that we don't want to look at paying for. That's the intent of the AIP handbook. There are going to be things the FAA pilots know that you guys don't know. Those are costs that those are costs that we'd look to pay. So just do your due diligence as you guys do and go from there. Because we do intend to get away from individual RA agreements because of how much it's bogging down these projects and bogging down the FAA as well. So that's the best answer that I can give today. We can talk more internally on that, but we hope that it does not become an issue.
Hey, Adam, got a couple of quick questions, or one question and one request. Hey, in the chat, Chuck was able to showcase what a email would look like from this system. Didn't know if you want to showcase that to everybody if they're not able to see their chat. Kind of neat.
Great point. Let me pull that up.
I think you'd be able. I don't know if. Well, I guess you probably can't actually share the chat itself directly. My bad. While you're pulling that up, another random question that may or may not come up, and you actually touched on it on your presentation, is this is mainly specifically for general aviation airports. The commercial airports themselves are complex as it already is, and will continue to work directly with the FAA for flight checks. Is that correct?
Yes, public use, general aviation, airports only for this intergovernmental agreement.
Excellent. And just for everyone's background as well, this was a problem statement that Adam came to all of us with an idea. Whereas it took anywhere between 6 months to 2 years to finally get flight checked, due to many specific steps and many different. It's a complicated process essentially. So this was Adam's desire to simplify it for everybody, and effectively we did our best to greenlight it, and we were able to hear from other states like Oklahoma and such that were doing something similar, and fell in love with the idea. And Adam's been working diligently on creating this as a process. Adam?
Yes, appreciate that. And are you guys seeing, Chris? Are you guys seeing the
Yes,
email
sir.
on the screen?
Yes, sir.
So, yeah, great point, Chris. This is what we will see. We'll have designated contacts associated with the ticketing system. Currently, it's going to me. And it copied. You can look um, that it's copying Chuck Hoskins. He is the state project manager for Morristown. So it gives us information that you input in the fields in this format currently. We just bold it so we can see what you said. And it gives us the information at a quick glance. We'll review it, make sure everything checks out. Your project manager is going to be copied because they're going to be aware of what's going on with the project as well. So we just want to make sure that before we send it off the FAA, this is a legit thing, and make sure that it is accurate and complete.
Derek has a question. Is this for new installed commissioning only, or will it apply to structure removal for PAPI settings verification?
Yeah, great question. This does not have to be just for new equipment. We may have equipment out there that is not commissioned. this could be utilized, from my understanding, um, for existing equipment that has not been FAA commissioned. So an example of that would be Madisonville recently. The FAA was doing routine flight inspections for their instrument approach procedures, and they noticed that they had PAPIs that were not FAA commissioned. So there was no record of the published data, and they required them to immediately turn them off. Well, these were 20, 30-year-old PAPIs, and you had to start the PAPI sighting process. You had to start the PAPI obstacle analysis process to make sure that when you turn them back on, that they are in line with the current FAA standards. So they went through that whole process. They had to cut a lot of trees, just be quite frank. And they got that done. And then we ended up doing an official FAA flight check, and they got them passed and put back on. So that would be a situation, giving you all that detail, that would be a situation where we could, instead of harness an AIP grant for those flight check costs, we can now use this TDOT FAA grant for that. You can do that for MERLs, PERLs, REALs, PAPIs. It's a great question.
Adam, got another question for you. What if an airport has set up an RA with the FAA and is waiting for the flight check? Will this process take over now?
No. You can use the existing RA, individual RA that you have in place. The FAA is transitioning. The FAA's hope is that all states will do this, but that takes state funding. So it's just something that they're pushing for. They are just transitioning. So use the existing RAs that you have in place. If you have any issues, let your project manager know about that, and we can discuss options.
And Ryan Halsey had a question on NBT, and it's more a comment specifically. NBT is currently undertaking this process after an aircraft went off the runway and hit our PAPIs. Ooh.
Wow. So I'm sorry, was there a question though?
Just a comment.
Yeah, that's sorry to hear about that. Yeah, but we could certainly, use this type of agreement to accommodate any flight inspections that are required at that point.
Any other questions? We got some general announcements. If there aren't any other questions, that would be good for everybody. All right, Adam. Excellent job as always, sir.
Thanks, guys.
I'll share my screen for some general announcements. I'll start off specifically. I'm gonna actually pull some of my notes over here so I can see as well. As you're aware, specifically, the TAA conference is coming up. It's going to be on February the 23rd to 25th. Registration is already active. I will copy the link and paste it in the chat if you haven't been able to sign up yet. Just go to the website. You'll see what I'm seeing specifically, and you'll be able to essentially see all the sponsorship as well as effectively be able to register for the event itself. If you click on down here at the below, specifically you see an agenda, you'll be able to see all the things that are occurring at the event itself, as well as specifically trying something out new this year with specifically the TAA has organized this, a TAD Talks, essentially from 12:30 to 4 on Monday. It's scheduling a time with TDOT Aeronautics for a one-on-one meeting specifically, as well as specifically on Wednesday, there's an opportunity for that as well from 12:30 to 3. So again, it's a TAD Talks. It's a one-on-one with TDOT Aeronautics to work through anything that's going on or anything of interest specifically. The other thing to also talk about is the Tennessee Aviation's Professionals Academy. We actually won an award Thanks to everybody who participated, as well as gave us great feedback and helped us develop the program. Specifically, of course, the consultants Kimley Horn, as well as everybody in the actual group that you see here. They gave us a lot of great feedback to help improve the entire program itself. So we were a winner of a 2025 National Associations of State Aviation Officials, nationwide plus territories, Most Innovative State Program Award. The TAP Academy specifically provides an aviation professionals with a foundation understanding of common aviation and airport related topics through 6 modules. TAP Academy includes a high level overview of the aviation system, project management, airport self-sufficiency, safety, security, applicable law and regulations, and airport zoning and land use compatibility. The next training specifically is actually going to be on April 15th and April 16th at McGee-Tyson Airport. So if you haven't been able to actually go to one of these yet, I highly advise you going to it. I'll put the link specifically in here as well that you can go ahead and click on and sign up for it. There's actually also education credits are available for professional engineers if needed. And if you have any questions concerning this, please contact John Briggs out of our office. He'll be able to give you more information about this program if you haven't seen his email yet for whatever reason. Some other general announcements specifically, and I'll bring it over to the screen so you can see my OneNote, is APMP, which basically is airport, basically payment management program. It's doing all the payment evaluations across the state. We only have about, I think, don't quote me on this, about 13 airports left, specifically more so in West Tennessee. And it's due to the ice storms in West Tennessee. We had to basically bump out the schedule a little bit in order to finish those up. So more information to come concerning that fairly soon. You should have received an email already about a week ago from Aeronautics Planning and Environmental staff associated to trying to get some updated PSR dates associated to the AIP program for 2026, and as we're preparing also for the FY 2027 program. The only reason why we're continually asking about this is we're trying to plan ahead to ensure that we spend all the federal funds so that you don't lose any federal funds, and then also that we're truly spending all the funding that we're receiving from the state appropriately, of course, so that as more funding is being requested from the TAA and other individuals, we can continue to show that the funding is being allocated appropriately, but also spent appropriately and accordingly. So another thing also for awareness is we had to yet, and you probably have noticed, we've been moving the obstruction analysis, basically demo for the office hours around. We've been working through essentially some airport tree removal processes, leveraging that software. So essentially we had some hiccups essentially that we're working through. So I'm hoping that effectively we'll be able to do that as an April office hours. I'm going to show you how successful it is because it's a really great software. But I also want to show you how we were able to leverage it to complete essentially vegetation removal. We've already done several airports in general, but we had already had those developed internally by a bunch of interns and graduate transportation, new graduate engineers basically. Utilizing CAD and other softwares with drones. Basically, we were wanting to showcase how we were able to leverage the software fully without having to utilize CAD and how successful it was. So with that, March office hours will be on land lease calculator demo. It's something that was actually very well received and requested when we did the hangar rates and charges. Land lease was a big request back then. So we were able to get our heads together with Kimley Horn and effectively put this as a part 2, essentially. So Kevin McGee, with the support of from Taylor and the team from Kimley Horn, will be able to effectively present this next month in March office hours. For the last specific announcement is the General Aviation Regional Meeting. It's being scheduled for April and May throughout the entire state. Holly Pendergrass has been collecting topic ideas from everybody here, so thank you for responding to her actual survey. And we're going to be putting our heads together to figure out essentially with those topic ideas for us to go ahead and prepare for those April and May General Aviation Regional meetings. With that, that's about all the announcements that I have. Do I have any questions or comments out there from the audience? My apologies for not turning my camera on. I just realized that. I was trying to turn it off for Adam's presentation, so my apologies. So with that, hearing none, I really do appreciate everyone's time, effort, and energy today. If you need us, please reach out to us. We'll do our best to accommodate as much as we possibly can. And with that, I appreciate y'all. And if anything, if we don't hear from you in the next few weeks, we'll definitely be seeing you in March office hours. And I hope, regardless, we should be seeing you and hearing you at the TAA conference that'll be happening later this month specifically. So thank you.